Welcome to the Players Ball podcast for AT Aliens by AT Aliens, hosted by Alex the Great and co-host MB. We bring you raw takes, real debates, and the hottest stories in Atlanta sports. No filters, no fluff, just straight talk from the city that runs the South.
From the gridiron to the hardwood, you know you got to keep your eyes on the birds. Let's talk Hawks. Let's talk Falcons. This is Hootie Hoo. Hootie Hoo. We back, man. This time we're not going to talk about them birds. Not a whole lot to report there. We're going to talk about the Hawks. I've made my opinions known of the national media. I don't like them. They don't like my teams. I think that's where we stand. And I don't think it's going to get any better because we have players on our teams doing significant things that we'll get into that just are not getting coverage, right? I'm going to give you some things that you probably hadn't even heard of. But we're going to start with, we found an interesting clip from, oh man, it's an Atlanta-based podcast. I had to think of their name. I can't think of it right now, but they had Lemon Pepper Lou on as a guest, and he made a comment about Trae Young that I thought was real interesting, and I thought it was accurate. Maddie, cut to the clip. Just playing. We're not gonna share the clip, but the comment was that he said Trae catches all this flack. And he thinks it's partially because he doesn't have a wingman. He thinks that's unfair, right? He named LeBron. He has one of the best wingmen.
Has had a wingman.
Has always had a wingman. Even you go back through all the Lakers. Kobe's always had wingmen. You know, whether it was Shaq or whether it was Paul Gasol, he had a heavy hitter on the team. Right now, you got Anthony Edwards. Kevin Durant has two. Like the era of the big three never really stopped, but you at least have two people, right? With the pairing of like Kyrie and Luka. Now Luka and LeBron. Trae's never had a guy. I think that's what they were going for with DJ Murray last year, but he's not one of them dudes.
DJ's not a household name like any of those guys that you just mentioned, right?
A fellow all-star. Like he had got his all-star nod, but I think he was a replacement, which, you know, is no, not quite there, right?
Yeah, I mean, he had a good season. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but when you look at Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, like those guys are on another level. You look at LeBron and Luka, like those names are just different, right? You look at
Anthony Davis, right?
Yeah.
Joker, Jamal Murray.
Exactly where I was going. Steph and Kyrie, or Steph and
Clay,
and Clay,
Steph and Jimmy.
Steph, Jimmy, Steph, Draymond, like all of those guys were just a different level than a Trae, DeJounte Murray is what I was getting at. Yeah. It's the Water Boys.
DeJounte just wasn't quite, if I'm being completely honest, he wasn't quite on Trae's level to be called like a dynamic duo.
No, and unfortunately,
they were more Batman and Robin than Batman Superman is what we need.
And unfortunately, their games just weren't complementary, right? Like, ideally, you have like the Joker, Jamal Murray, where their games are complementary. You got the Draymond with Steph, like the enforcer, and then the finesse, right? Like you have the yin and the yang, and we had just the yin and the yin.
You got Giannis, and they went out and got Dame before Dame.
Drew Holiday
Drew Holiday. Chris Middleton was on and off, but Drew Holiday was a big piece for them. Yeah, they haven't done that for Trae.
They also had Lopez, brother.
Yeah, Lopez.
I mean, they had pieces, but they haven't done that for Trae. To your point, I was gonna say the name of the podcast. Got to shout them out, the Water Boys.
The Water Boys, yeah, they do some funny clips.
They do, but I thought it was interesting coming from Lou. You know, He's an Atlanta native. Went South Gwinnett High School. Went NBA fresh out of high school when you could still do that. We played, against him every year. Met him in the region championship. He's a big name locally, right? Sixth man of the year. Long NBA career. For him to just come out and just flat out say, like, one of the reasons why Trey is public enemy number one is because he's got no one else to be the scapegoat. Really, right? Like that's the brunt of his rationale, is that Trey is the only one, and because he's the only star, he's the only one that's going to take the heat, and it's unfair for Trey. But he also, Lou goes on to say that the Hawks have a decision they have to make, and I know there's a decision that you want them to make and I want them to make, but he puts it point blank. They have one of two things they can do. They can either go out and get Trey a number 2 or a number 2 and 3, or they can let him walk and let him go find that somewhere else. And I think that's a harsh reality.
It is. I mean, I don't think, I think it has a time limit on it, right? If you don't do one, the other's going to happen. Trae Young isn't going to stick around forever, dealing with the same pieces. Now, I do like what they've built. There was a question raised today that said, if you could get KD here, but you had to lose some pieces, would you do it? Would you bring KD into the fold? I don't think KD is the answer, but the way that they were talking about it on the radio show, this was Dylan's take, was that he doesn't want to break up the core that they're building with Trey, Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, and Ricochet. He doesn't want to break that up to bring in a star. I won't go that far, right? I trade Jalen Johnson right now for the right player, straight up. I like what we got in Ricochet. He's younger. So far, he's healthier. If we can bring in a star, and we had to part with Jalen Johnson, I wouldn't be mad at it. Now, I wouldn't do that for KD, but is there a person that you would do that for? What do you think the Hawks need, and what star would fit that need?
So, to be honest, I don't disagree with you in Jalen. I like Jalen a lot, but health is definitely a concern at this point. When he's on the field or on the court, he's dynamic and he's electric and he's fun to watch. I go back. I've said this many times. If I'm gonna hold on to Jalen, right, I'm going after a big man. I'm going after a Wembanyama. You're not gonna get Joker, but Joker. I mean, I'd take a Giannis, like some big athletic, power forward or center.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of where I go.
Could not agree more. And I'm going there, keeping that core or breaking it up. Right. So I actually want to keep Trey, Dyson. I want to keep Jalen too. Jalen is a beast. But I think if you keep that core, you need a 5. You need an all-star 5 or somebody that's a 4 that could kind of defend the 5 type situation, like a Giannis. I don't think Giannis would be impossible. I would love to see Giannis in a Hawks jersey. It was supposed to happen a long time ago when Bud really wanted to draft him. He left that next year to go coach Milwaukee.
The Giannis thing, I think, yeah, he's one of my favorite players. I've said that before. So him in a Hawks jersey would be a dream come true. I think with the situation and his story, I find it really hard to see him leaving Milwaukee. I just do. He has a lot of love for Milwaukee and the risk that they took on him and what they've done for him and his family, if you haven't seen the movies, the kind of documentaries about him and his life growing up and his journey to the NBA, I think watching those, you would kind of get the same sense that I have, is like, if he leaves Milwaukee, it won't be his decision, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean,
was he a champion in the documentary or any of the documentaries that he watched?
No, it was before his championship, I believe.
To me, that not to say that he was just indebted. It sounds like he feels indebted to the city. And if he does, I think bringing Milwaukee a championship
pays that debt.
Debt paid, baby. Come on down to the
A. hey, I'm with it. But in
I
turn,
couldn't think of another center though, right? Like if Embiid didn't, if he could come on a 1-year deal, like if we could sign him to a Matthew Judon deal to see if he can get back on the horse for a year, I think he'd be a perfect fit. But I'm with you. I do want a center or a big power forward.
Yeah, I'd have to do some more digging on names at that position, but I think like a Wemby, even though like that's not going to happen, or Chet Holmgren, or even like a Zach Edey, I still think makes his team better. He's not the bona fide all-star name, household name that we were talking about, but he's on his way, I think. But yeah, I think out of all the players, Jalen to me would be the easiest to move. Him and Onyeka. I want
because they're good. I don't want to shortchange them. It's because they have value. It's specifically Jalen.
It's because they have value, but to me, it's more about preserving the Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, and Zachary Richichet core.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the more important core.
I agree. I mean, I don't know what their record is without Jalen Johnson, but it doesn't seem like it changed much up or down.
I believe their record as of today is 36-38. So they're still 2 games below 500. But they are sitting at 7th in the league. I think they're 4 games behind the Bucks, who they beat last night. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities to get to the 6th seed. It's unlikely, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities. So they're playing good enough basketball to be in the playoff.
Yeah, and to just have 1 game in the play-in would be great. Now Orlando is that's a tough out, but I think we can beat them. We play them 2 more times, which is crazy. They did say it's more of a foregone conclusion that we end up either 7th or 8th, which either means we play Orlando at home or we play Orlando in Orlando for that 1 game.
I hope it's at home for the city of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think you've seen a lot of growth over the course of this year from Trae. We're seeing a hell of a return on Dyson Daniels, and then Zach being the young, the teenager. We've seen a lot of growth in him. We've talked about, unfortunately, his growth and his minutes were due to the Jalen Johnson injury, but I think in long term, that's going to be a blessing for us. And you brought it to my attention, but he's on the verge of doing something that only 2 other players in NBA history have done at his age, and that is 100+ threes, 50+ steals, and 30+ blocks in a single season. The other 2 names, Jason Tatum and Anthony Edwards. That's pretty elite company, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's elite company. There's no other way to say it, right? LeBron ain't even on that list. But you see those two names and you see what they're doing now, and obviously that's not how math works, progression works, but it's very encouraging to see that, plus the way he's finished out the month of March. I mean, I think if he wins NBA Player of the Month or NBA Rookie of the Month, he should win Rookie of the Year. He's making a good fight for that. I was looking at the former Rookies of the Years. They had won multiple months. Right now, everyone has won a single month. He will be the first to repeat, at least in the East, I remember. So it'd be good for him to accomplish that. There's a lot happening, right? He's in the running for that, right? To be on the list to be the third man on a list of an accomplishment that's ever been done in the NBA is a big deal. He could also win Rookie of the Year. You got Dyson Daniels, who is leading the league in steals by a mile. He just broke the Atlanta Hawks franchise record for steals in a given season, held by the late great Mookie Blaylock. Shout out Mookie. And then that's where I circle back to my displeasure in listening to and battling with the national media, because they don't have him in the running for Defensive Player of the Year still, right? It was Wemby's award to lose, and then he got injured, and he no longer meets the minimum game standard. So then that opened up the playing field. Our boys making all kinds of records, setting trends. We are not an elite defense, but we are miles ahead of where we were last year.
He's got the highest average steals per game since 1988-89 in the NBA.
So tell me why Draymond Green, who, he's throwing shots. We beat them without Steph, and he's talking about, this is a game we should have picked up. Like, man, get out of here. I ain't trying to hear that from you. And now he's the odds man to win Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah,
I don't get it, man. I do get it, because the national media loves the Golden State Warriors. I love Steph Curry too. But that don't mean that Draymond gets to fly on his coattails to another Defensive Player of the Year. He's definitely earned the ones that he won. I'm not trying to take that away from him, but this year it feels like this is Dyson Daniels' award, and to give it to somebody else would be expected but fraudulent.
It is 100% thievery if he doesn't win it. But I will say, even though the national media isn't giving him his flowers and they may rob him of that accolade, I think, by and large, people are paying attention. Like the non-casuals are paying attention, right? He is getting some recognition. He just signed a 4-year shoe contract with Adidas. He's joining his boy Trey over at Adidas. But like with his success, there are some rewards are following, right? So I think it would be poor of us to just 100% just bash the media saying he's not getting respect. When he's just not getting all the respect that he deserves, right? Like there are
he's not getting respect from the media. He's getting it from businesses. People are making sound decisions because he deserves the recognition.
Yeah.
ESPN is not talking about Dyson Daniels nearly as much as they should. CBS Sports ain't doing it. Fox Sports ain't doing it. And because of that, that's why I'm saying the national media is trash, man. The what did Chuck call them? Those knuckleheads. He called them idiots. Those idiots over at ESPN.
They're about to be his boss.
Talking about the Lakers and Golden State when OKC and Cleveland are having like once in a lifetime seasons, right? They're about to do. Cleveland's about to have a record that LeBron James couldn't achieve.
But that's because the Associated Press, the majority of these media companies are based out of New York and Los Angeles, right?
That's it.
It's 100% bias, right? And I think Chuck is 100% based in his assessment, right? Like
Yeah.
everything he says valid.
The other thing that has happened that I haven't seen, I literally looked before we started recording to see if anyone else had mentioned Trae Young's accomplishment of being the youngest player in NBA history to score 12,000 points and record 4,500 assists, passing the one and only LeBron James.
LeBrenda James Jr.
LeBrenda James. Passing LeBron. I couldn't find it anywhere. ESPN didn't talk about it. Only the Hawks social media.
Yeah,
even
it's
mentioned it.
crazy. It's
It's
absolutely
crazy.
crazy. I think, not to just completely bash the NBA, but they have falling viewership, and I think some of it is just stuff like that, right? Where the league is failing to recognize and capitalize on its stars and just paying attention to some of the higher markets. And, at the end of the day, it's at the detriment of the game.
He's the sixth player. So even if you're just looking at the peers that he was drafted with, he's the sixth player to hit 12,000 since he entered the league in 2018, right? So you got Luka, probably Shea. Like his draft was actually really strong. I don't know if Anthony Edwards has 12K yet, but for it to just go unnoticed is crazy. Like this article that I'm looking at now is Athlon Sports. Let's see if this Sports Illustrated talks about it. Burying in the lead. And then they used the Hawks social media post as the picture to talk about it. Come on, SI. It doesn't make sense, man. It does not make sense.
It doesn't.
But shout out the Hawks, man. The Hawks are doing big things. We are not a championship team yet, so I know we have some growth opportunity, but I've seen a lot out of them this season that gives me encouragement.
Yeah, I got to give them credit because I've been pretty critical of this team this year, but I think given all the adversity that they've encountered through injuries and other things, they have really, I don't want to say they've made the most of it, because that
could be better. Yeah,
that's putting a ceiling on what they're capable of. But I think that they've done a good job of adapting and improving and fighting and getting better. And so we'll just have to wait and see. Anything can happen in a playoff environment. Are you expecting them to win a championship? Absolutely not. But we want to carry some momentum into next year.
March Madness picks, fiddlesticks, Hawks in 6. Have you seen those Shannon Sharps?
No.
Lakers in 5. You haven't seen Lakers in 5?
No.
Oh man, yeah, you gotta go check some of them out, man. I'm gonna drop another Hawks in 6 next week, just so it'll be after you watched it.
All right, I'll check it out.
Yeah, man. All right, we're gonna close out this segment, man, and move on to the next. We love giving y'all the worthwhile content, so we're gonna keep doing it, man. It's fun for us, so we appreciate y'all being with us. Like, follow, subscribe, check out the socials. Got content pumping out. The famous Rick Grimes made an appearance this week, so we got some other stuff coming for y'all.
All right, man. Appreciate it. This has been another Hootie Hoo. Peace.